All right, so I'm back. Figured out what the mistake was, so I'm going to do a really quick walkthrough here to explain why. If you remember when I first was working on this, I said I thought it was very weird that it would let me allocate an integer with a non-final variable. Generally speaking, it won't let you do it. It actually won't. HackerRank's a little bit different. It doesn't give you the same errors that you normally would. So what you need to do is to use a vector. So if you use a vector of integers, and what a vector does, and this is the reason why vectors are so critical, it's so very weird because this is an arrays introduction problem. But they did include vector, which I thought was very strange, that they would include that on an arrays problem, so I didn't think to use it. Doesn't matter. So a vector is a dynamic container, meaning it doesn't need to know exactly how big it is to get started. Meanwhile, an array, like we talked about, does have a very fixed size. And so what needed to happen is I needed to, instead of trying to do this, which is what I had before, this sort of configuration where I'm telling it, hey, I've got an array and it's going to hold whatever length is. We don't know what length is yet at compile time, but we'll figure out at runtime. That should not work. And that actually should have blown up. I was very surprised that it worked at all, but it doesn't work. You have to do it this way because vectors are dynamic. So the rest of the solution is all actually quite straightforward. Now, this bit here is a little bit interesting because what you end up doing is, because you don't know the size of the vector ahead of time, you have to make sure that there's a variable there, an element there, which you will eventually pass in this value. So you have to just make sure that for each time you do this, there is an actual element in the vector, and you push in a value in, and then you actually scan the value in across. So you have sort of a holder variable just so that there is something in memory and it's not null, and then you can actually pass your value into it. And then when you're done, it's all very much the same. And again, this is length minus 1, as we expect it to be. And I has to be greater than or equal to 0, and then when you do that, it all works quite naturally. So that was the confusion. Sorry about that. I'm actually going to tack this ending onto the end of the last video so that it's 100% clear. Thanks for watching. Hopefully the next one has a little bit less craziness and a little bit more straightforward. Thanks a lot.